interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
What's new, film buffs? It's Straight Shooter. Yes, I'm back. It's been a little while, and it's basically because since my last review, there really hasn't been anything of interest that I wanted to go out and see as far as new movies. But I did go out this week and I saw the new It, and so here I am. Once again, I'm at Team Sound Studios. My review will have spoilers. It will be a red band review, and I'm going to be reviewing It Chapter 2. So, It has a pretty big history. It was a novel by Stephen King, which I did read when I was younger. And there was the 1990 miniseries that they did. Then a couple years ago, I guess what you would call the first chapter of this movie, but it was just called It. Now we have It Chapter 2. So we pick up sort of where the first one left off. They show a little bit of history from when they were in Derry as kids, and then they show them as adults when they're living in different... The only person that stayed behind in Derry was Mike, and he's been calling everyone because Pennywise, the clown that terrorized them as kids, is starting to kill again. It's 27 years later. And everyone's a little reluctant to come back to Derry, but somehow they're compelled to because there's some kind of supernatural force. Okay, they went away from Derry and they forgot a lot about what happened to them when they were kids with Pennywise. But when they all came back to Derry and they were together again, they started to remember everything, flashes, memories, all that stuff. So let me start out with the cast. So you have James McAvoy, and if you've been following my reviews, you know I'm a big fan of him. Awesome actor, so many good movies, so many good roles. Jessica Chastain is playing Beverly. She isn't as compelling of a character as the person that played young Beverly. You saw the person that played young Beverly and you're like, wow, yeah, that's Beverly through and through. With Jessica Chastain, she's a pretty face, but I don't really see her connecting with Beverly as much. But that's just me. Bill Hader plays Richie, and Bill Hader's funny, he's hilarious. And Richie was funny in the first movie. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that James McAvoy plays Bill Denbrough. I don't know who the older actor is that plays Mike, or some of the actors that play the older people. The only person that I kind of recognize that I don't know his name offhand, but I've definitely seen his face. The guy that plays Ben, the heavy-set kid when he was younger, he got older and he was more in shape, which is also in line with the book. And it presents a challenge when you play older versions of characters that set up the series so well in the first one, because there wouldn't have been a part 2 if part 1 wasn't so. But I think for the most part, they did a good job of representing the adult versions of those characters. And you have the little love triangle between Bill Denbrough, and Beverly, and Ben. How it all happens is Pennywise is starting to kill again. He's grabbing children and feasting on them and stuff like that. And one thing that the movie is not afraid to do is to show gory violence on children. Like there's this one scene where this little girl sees a firefly and follows it under the bleachers, and Pennywise is there and talks to her, and he's like, you can trust me, and he ends up taking a big bite out of her and killing her right there. And it was pretty surprising how gory it is, because usually movies stray away from a lot from violence on children, but this movie wasn't afraid to do that. And that's really to show how dangerous Pennywise is, because he has a knack for getting children to trust him because he looks like a clown, to lure them in and then to kidnap them and eat their flesh and all that stuff. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise is pretty terrifying because there's no humor to him. He's just dangerous, deadly, someone you wouldn't want to fuck with. So most of the movie is setting up how they're going to fight Pennywise. Because each of them, it flashes back to when they were younger rather, and how he terrorized them during and after the whole encounter. And as an adult, like once they found out what was happening, like what led them up to coming to Derry, because they were experiencing, visions and terror and stuff like that. And one of them actually didn't make it there because he committed suicide. He didn't want to go back, and it just shows how Pennywise really fucked them up mentally, emotionally, and all that stuff. So you see, Beverly is still dealing with stuff from her dad, and when she's older, she meets a woman who turns out to be Pennywise, and he terrorizes her. Pennywise terrorizes Bill, played by James McAvoy. He lures this kid into a funhouse with the mirrors and stuff. Bill goes after the kid and says, "Don't go in there," and Pennywise corners the kid and kills them, and Bill is standing right there. That's the first two acts of the movie. The first act is, the flashbacks from when they were younger and learning about Pennywise and what's happening. And the second act is everyone meeting and coming to Derry and realizing that they have to band together and kill Pennywise. And the third act is basically them planning everything, figuring out that they have to do some sort of ritual to kill him, and it all leads to a climax, which is them going down into the world where Pennywise's lair pretty much is. And that wasn't shown in the first movie. It was just shown where the sewers are, where he kept all the people that were floating, that he was feeding off of. But they went down to his lair, and that's where he became the big giant arachnid and attacked everyone. They figured out that the way to beat him is to make him feel like he's not scary, like he's really small, like he can't really hurt anybody. So that's what they do. They torment him, and then they figure out that they need to take out his heart, and they take out his heart, and everyone stands around and crushes his heart, and that's the end of it, or Pennywise. And they didn't really clearly explain exactly where Pennywise came from, or it rather. I think maybe he was an alien, because one of the scenes he said, "I was there when it arrived." So arrived indicates that it might be an alien, and then it showed another scene where it looked like a meteor coming from the sky, and that's how it came to Earth. I don't know, but it's a shapeshifter, so even though it looks human, it could be any form. He definitely used that to his advantage in this movie. He was transforming into all different sorts of people, things, animals, scary things that they never even thought they could see. The movie itself was really good. Was it as good as the first movie? No, but I think by default it couldn't have been, because the first movie was so good. It shows Pennywise, how he terrorizes children, and it shows them as children. So it showed really effectively how he was able to scare all of them. And in the second movie, they were adults, so he wasn't as scary to them, but it was more about him kidnapping and killing other children. But it was hard to be attached to those children because they were one-offs. They weren't integral characters in the story. They were just pretty much expendable. But other than that, I think the acting was really good. I think they kept faithful to the book. And it's a long movie. It's close to 3 hours. But I think that if it wasn't that long, there might have had to been a part 3. And a part 3 would have been disappointing. Because what could they have done in part 2 if there was going to be a part 3? You know, they all come to Derry. And they find out that Pennywise is killing people. And in the third movie, that's when they take him on. I think everything needed to happen in this movie. Because it really is a two-parter. Just like the miniseries was a two-parter. But I still liked the movie a lot. It was just hard to match up to the first one. By default. It wasn't that long since the first movie, about a couple years. So you didn't really have to wait long to find out what happens, which is another good thing. But I think it was a satisfying conclusion to the story. And the other thing about the movie is, because the movie's long and it's telling so many stories about so many different characters, it changes in tone a lot. And normally I kind of have a problem with that, with movies going back and forth and not knowing what they want to be. But that's the way the book was. It was part horror and it was part coming of age. These kids growing up together and promising to come back to Derry as adults if Pennywise ever terrorized it again. You had the part at the end where they defeated Pennywise, and the movie goes for about another 15 to 20 minutes talking about how they are now and comparing to when they were younger. And the last shot of the movie is them riding bikes when they're kids. And it was a very uplifting, like, feel-good ending. And if you didn't know much about it, you might think, well, that's kind of weird to show at the end of a horror movie. But that's the story they were telling. That's the story they were setting up from the first one. And it's the story from the book as well. So, what would I give the movie? I would give it an A-. It was good. It was really decent. It just wasn't in the very good, like, awesome to great category. But I'll definitely be picking it up when it comes out on 4K. That's my review. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. And I definitely recommend it if you watched the first It. That's it for today. Thank you for coming back and watching my review. Please like, subscribe, comment if you like. Let me know what you think about the channel, what you think of my reviews. Check out some of my other reviews. I'm still growing. I'm in the 30-something. I think this is episode 31. So I'm going to keep rolling along as long as I still keep getting views and as long as I still enjoy doing what I'm doing. This is straight.
1, 2, 3, eat me!